Hello, it is Monday and also Pumpkin is here. But since it's Monday, that means it's the start of my weekly vlog. I've been really enjoying the process of vlogging, and I feel like it's helping me keep on track with things I'm working on, so just gonna keep doing it for now. But I figured real quick before I go to class, how, sir? Thank you. Just got a claw on the back of my neck. Real quick before I go to class, I'd let you know what I'm gonna be reading this week. First up, I'm currently reading Huge Around the World as an ebook, which it comes out tomorrow, so I've not done a good job of getting this read before release day, but I am going to try and read some more tonight, and then probably also just like power through it tomorrow afternoon, because Tuesdays are one of my days where I get to work from home, so I do my hours earlier and I have like all afternoon free. I do have a drop-in office hour I need to do because I'm a TI, but other than that, I'm gonna have the afternoon to like work on homework and read, so it'll be good. The next thing I'm reading is for class. I'll be reading Othello this week for my class on gender and sexuality studies, so very excited for this. I've never read Othello before, but I have been enjoying reading Shakespeare in the last couple of years, so I'm excited to give this one a try and see what it's all about. I am going to try and find an audiobook for this though, because I find that really helps me understand better, so that's like the one required thing I'm going to be tackling this week. And then lastly, I have this library book still, Translation Stay by Anne Leckie, which is due on Friday, so I'm going to be reading this as well. So those are my three focuses for the week. And then what else is going on? I'm going to be doing some thesis research, preparing for class. That's it. That's pretty much it. That's all I've got going on right now. So that is the plan for the week. And for now, I'm going to go to class because I have my long day today. So I have like class and then work and then more class. So I'm going to go do that. And I'll check back in with you guys this evening when I've hopefully made some progress on something and or done something interesting. Well, it's been a very long day, that's what I'm trying to say. But I'm back from class, and class was really good. I really am looking forward to it this semester. I think this is gonna be a really fun class. Everybody in the class seems really cool. I only knew a couple of them beforehand, but there's like a really broad array of research interests, so I think that's gonna lead to some like really interesting conversations, and I think it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be different because the structure is different from other classes I've taken, but I think it's gonna be a really good class. I am really looking forward to it. So now that I'm home, I have a couple of things I need to get done this evening. Mostly I'm still doing laundry, so I'm finishing up that. I've been doing laundry for a few days. It always takes me a few days to like actually remember to put every load in the wash. But I'm doing some laundry, and then I desperately need to finish editing tomorrow's video. By finish, I mean start and finish editing, because I should have started it yesterday and I didn't do that. I played Fortnite. Not my brightest moment, but I'm gonna work on it tonight, and that is my one thing I have to like get done tonight. And when I'm done with that, I think I am gonna spend some time reading Huge Around the World and just kind of like get ready for bed, hang out, read a little bit. Because it is currently just before 8, so I've got, you know, not a lot of evening left now that I have gotten home and eaten and everything. I'm gonna go ahead and get that edited, do some reading this evening, and also hang out with this little cat who I just saw pop up into one of his favorite spots over here. So that is pretty much all that's gonna happen this evening. The video has been edited. I feel like it looks like I haven't moved or anything, and kind of I haven't. I've been sitting here, but the video is edited. It is currently exporting, and I suspect I'm going to have to wait and make the thumbnail tomorrow morning while I am uploading this, because this is going to take a little while to export. It's a little bit on the longer side. It's my first kind of like standard weekly vlog that I've done that wasn't like for an event. I haven't really done much weekly vlogging, but I'm enjoying it now, so it's a little on the long side. It's not terribly long. I think it's like 45 minutes, but it's a little on the long side, so it's gonna take it a little while to finish exporting. I don't think I updated earlier. I kind of forgot. I woke up a little bit late, so I just like went straight to work because I'm working from home today, but it is fairly late in the afternoon now. I'm actually eating lunch. I have a sandwich. There it is, sandwich. Today has been pretty uneventful. Work was pretty normal, a little bit tedious, mostly like uploading things. And then I had a drop-in office hour that I almost forgot about because my phone was muted and I didn't get the notification reminding me. I looked up like 5 minutes before it started, so I had to like quickly log into my personal computer and get everything set up for that, but no one showed up, so I just kind of sat for an hour and read. But I do have a reading update because I just read. So I've been reading Huge Around the World, and I'm at 37% now. I love it so much. It is such a good follow-up to She Who Became the Sun. There's so many interesting things going on. There's characters interacting in ways I wouldn't have expected based on the first book. Not to say that they don't make sense for the characters, just to say that like we're getting kind of like some matchups between characters that where they're like working together or interacting in ways that like they wouldn't have in the first book, but they've been pushed into these completely new situations and are kind of like having to navigate those situations. So I'm really enjoying this. Things are going in very interesting directions. I'm in part 2. I don't know how many parts there are, but I'm in part 2. And everything is going in such interesting directions for our 3 main characters. And then we also get a perspective from one of the other kind of contenders for the throne as well. So we have 3 of them that are the main perspectives, Zhe, Ouyang, and Baozhang. And then we also briefly get, I don't know if we get any more of her perspective, but we have so far briefly gotten a little bit of Madame Zhang's perspective, and she's really interesting. So I'm enjoying all of the very interesting, like, I'm gonna say interesting 50 more times, I apologize, but all the like political machinations happening. There's a lot of stuff about like trade and court politics and like the necessities of resources and resource management for an army, a lot of stuff about that. But there's also some really like beautiful, quiet character moments that are happening. There's been several of them that I've gotten to that have made me like have to stop and put the book down and just kind of process them for a minute, because they have like such big implications for the characters. So I'm really enjoying it, and I'm also really enjoying how much of this book is about like embodied experience. You have like 4 different people that so far who are experiencing the world in like very different ways based on like their gender presentation, the way they carry themselves, their like societal roles in the world, and like the differences in the way that they each experience the outside world, but also their like own internal feelings and emotions. It's just fascinating. I really am enjoying that aspect of it and how much focus there is on this like embodied experience aspect of it. It's a very character driven story, so like there's interesting stuff happening with the plot, but so much of this is driven by like the characters and the development of the characters, and that to me is like perfect fantasy. That's the kind of fantasy that I really like, so I am loving this book so far. Guess who did not do any homework reading last night? It's me. I didn't do any homework reading last night. I read a little bit more of He Who Drowned the World and got actually to the 50% mark, and then I played Fortnite with my friends, and that's it. That was all I did last night. So I'm okay with that. The homework reading is actually for next week. It's for Monday of next week, all of it. There's no new readings for the class I'm TIing for this week, and then the other stuff is all around Othello and the discussion we're gonna have around that. So I'm okay with the fact that I did not get through it yesterday or get started on it yesterday, because I will instead get started on it today. So my plan for today was first I have to go to class and to work this morning, and I have a meeting with the instructor that I'm doing the TI thing with, and so then I will come home and I'll work on homework when I get back. Should be plenty of time for me to read at least the introductory things I was talking about yesterday that are just like keyword stuff. I'll start there, and then I think I'll probably try to finish He Who Drowned the World as quickly as possible, and then turn my focus directly to Othello and go ahead and read that. Since I have the audiobook, that is gonna go fairly quickly, I think. And I'm looking forward to it. I've never read Othello before, so I think it's gonna be interesting. Many hours later, and I am desperately in need of a to-do list. I had a moment earlier where my anxiety suddenly kicked up really bad. I was just sitting at work working, and I was thinking about like things I need to get done. I'm looking at my calendar, and all of a sudden I'm just like, oh my god, I have so much to get done. I gotta do all this reading for this class, I got this reading for my channel, I need to film, I need to edit, I need all these things. And I just like started to panic a little bit, like my heart was racing. And this happens to me occasionally. I get overwhelmed when I have a lot to do, and I start to like panic about where do I even get started, and then I frequently will just not do anything. So I like really need to put together a little to-do list for the evening. And the first thing on the to-do list is going to be listening to the alumni panel that's happening this evening. That's going to be my like decompressed time. Some of the alumni from the department I'm in is going to be doing a panel this evening talking about like postgraduate school life and some stuff to do with like graduate school applications, like PhD applications, I think, but also like careers that you could go into if you were going to go on and not get a PhD, or if you're going to get a PhD but not go into academia. Second thing on the list is I want to go ahead and read the 3 keyword articles I need to read for my class on Monday, because I want to have those kind of in the back of my mind before I start reading Othello, which I'm planning to do probably tomorrow or Friday at the latest. So those are kind of my 2 main things. And then the last thing is really just make more progress on He Who Drowned the World sometime this evening, because I am completely obsessed with that book. I really want to finish it. I really want to get my review up soon. Also, it's just taking over my mind and I just think about it all the time. So I need to finish it so that I can be free to work on other things and think about other things. But it's just such an interesting book, and I love the first book so much. I'm loving this as a follow-up. It's so good. But those are gonna be my like 3 to-do things for this evening, just to kind of like calm myself down. Actually, I take that back. Let me add a 4th thing. Let me add a 4th to-do thing. I also need to film a video. Not a long one, just a short one. I need to film a video that's for Saturday. So, correction, I have 4 things on my to-do list. Well, the panel just ended and I managed to, 1, listen to that. Actually, it's not over. I left it. I should clarify. The panel was almost over. They were getting down to just like viewer questions, but it was ultimately not really what I was expecting it to be. It was entirely about like applying to faculty positions, and that wasn't really what I was expecting. So right now, you know, I'm not a PhD student. I'm not doing that yet. I'm nowhere near doing that yet. So it was just not what I was expecting, but still good advice. A lot of the panelists had some interesting things to say about like the process that they went through with that, but it just wasn't relevant to my needs. And then I finished one other thing off my to-do list. I filmed a video. Yes, that's the other thing. I filmed a video right before the panel started, so I am done with 2 of my 4 items. The boys are hanging out together on the love seat. Oh my god. Hi, Pumpkin. I have finished the keywords articles and I am now incredibly tired. My eyes are burning. I'm not sure I took in like the last couple of pages I read, but they have been read. One of them was just an introduction to the collection, which is like a keywords in gender and sexuality studies collection. But then the 2 that we had to read that were actual like pieces from that collection were on subjectivity and imperialism. And I was expecting it to be more like a definition, like a, you know, maybe like a showing the timeline of the definition of these things or some of the different ways they've been theorized. And it kind of does that, but it more reads as like a timeline of when did this first kind of come into theory, and then here's a bunch of the different people who have said things about it who are like significant. So it was more like details of their lives and details of specific works, and so it wasn't quite what I was expecting it to be, which was interesting. It was an interesting reading experience, but it definitely made parts of it a little bit difficult to parse, because it was like the statement interjected with like, and then here's a little backstory of the person who wrote the piece that we're talking about. So kind of following each sentence was a little bit difficult, and none of them were long. I think the subjectivity one was like 4 pages and the other one was like 7. So it wasn't like terribly long. It just, I think I'm tired and it was hard to completely get what was happening there. But I have read them, and I know that we're kind of focusing on subjectivity and imperialism for this first week of Othello. So I need to read Othello next. I think that's what I'm gonna do, is I'm gonna go and I'm gonna read Othello, and then the rest of these are like critical pieces. I think there's some theory as well, but I'm gonna read Othello next and then come back to the other articles that I need to read that go along with it. Well, I didn't actually do what I said I was going to do. I edited a video instead. I realized that it was like 8:30 or maybe a little before 9, something like that, like 8:45. And I take allergy medicine at 9:30, which means I have to be up until at least 9:30 to take my allergy medicine, because otherwise I will suffer. It will be bad. So I was like, well, I'll just edit a video. So Saturday's video is done. I'm waiting for it to finish exporting so that I can actually go put it on YouTube. So when that is done, then it'll be bedtime. It feels incredibly early to me. Is that too low? That is too low. move you back up. You can see my breakfast here. I did go get some breakfast, by which I meant I went downstairs to my kitchen and made some breakfast. Anyway, let's not start with rambling. I'm tired and it's simply going to happen. I apologize in advance. But it's very early and it's one of my work from home days, so I am logging in, getting started on work, and I'm glad it's a work from home day because one, I'm tired, so it's a little bit easier. I don't have to drive to campus, but two, that means I have all of my afternoon to myself, which is good because I have a slightly ambitious to-do list for today. The first thing being, and you're gonna get tired of hearing me say this, I'm hoping this might be the last time I'm saying this, I want to finish He Who Drowned the World because I've been making pretty good progress on it. I'm loving it. When I'm reading it, it's a very quick read. I think I'm around 60%, so I think it's doable. It's just a little ambitious is all. But I would love for this to be the last time I'm saying I would like to finish He Who Drowned the World, and hopefully the next thing you'll be seeing from me is like a summary of my thoughts on He Who Drowned the World instead. So I'd love to finish that, but I also need to read the first 3 acts of Othello because that's what's assigned for Monday. Like, I need to get to that. Not that like I'm pushing it at this point because it's Thursday, it's for Monday, I have all weekend, but I would love to go ahead and get those first 3 acts done, which would open up my time to go back and read the like critical text that I need to read alongside the actual play. Then I also need to do one more thing for class, and this one's fun to say because this is for English 237, which is the class I'm TIing for, and I figure I'll just tell you the number so that I can stop saying the class I'm TIing for. But we need to play an extra hour of Stardew Valley because we did not have enough time on Friday just playing in class to get far enough that we had stuff to talk about because everybody's still kind of like getting to grips with the mechanics and getting a little bit further into the game. So the instructor has decided we need to play like 1 hour each week outside of class and see how that goes. See if we get a little further in and can actually have like some good discussion. And then the last thing is not school related. I have one more video that is already filmed that I need to go ahead and edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that today because it's for Saturday of next week, which would put me a little bit ahead on my filming and editing schedule, which would be fantastic. It always gives me a little extra time to read and a little time to kind of plan the you know, upcoming videos if I'm not like in the midst of, okay, but I need to get this week's video finished. So I'm gonna get that done as well. So I feel pretty confident I'm gonna get to the Stardew Valley and the video editing. The reading, I don't know how much of it I'll actually get done, but I have like lofty goals there and I recognize that, but I think I can make a good chunk of progress on it. I have finished my additional hour of Stardew Valley, which I'm actually starting in the game now. There's a few mechanics I still don't quite understand, but I did finally manage to make a chest so that I can put things away and not just constantly have my inventory be full. So I have done that, and I've started to get into some of the story bits, meeting some people, finding some of the mysteries in the town, that kind of thing. So starting to actually make some progress and have a sense of what the game is. I also edited that video and it just finished exporting a little bit ago, so I'm gonna go ahead and put together the thumbnail, get that uploaded, and I ended up actually swapping things around, so this video is actually gonna go up on this Saturday, and the one I already had done and uploaded and scheduled, I've now rescheduled for next Saturday. So I think that's gonna work a little bit better. I keep meaning to read Othello, but like, I'm reading Huge Around the World again, and I can't put this book down. But also, I think just happened. I am like on the verge of sobbing. This bit is so sad. Shelley Parker Chan is very good at getting you invested in characters who are terrible people, but also like sad, broken people. And even as they're doing horrible things, you can't help but like feel for them when things are going horribly wrong for them. And you know that like you want good things for them, even when they're being awful. But you also know that they're just gonna keep making themselves miserable. I am this close to sobbing. Everything is bad. I'm at like the 70% mark. I don't know if I'm gonna finish this tonight. I'm probably not gonna get to Othello tonight, but I'll read it tomorrow afternoon. But like, what the fuck? It's Friday. I'm back in my usual spot here next to my desk, and I've just gotten back from work, and I managed to listen to an audiobook while I was at work. So I listened to Empty Smiles by Catherine Arden, which is the final book in the Small Spaces series, which is a like middle grade horror series. And I really was enjoying the series, wanted to finish it out, and I ended up buying the audiobook because my library just never got it in. It came out last year. It's been out for I think almost a year. It came out in September, and they've just never gotten the audiobook for it. So went ahead and bought it, listened to it today, and I think that it is kind of a mixed bag. In some ways I think it's very nice to see the conclusion of Ollie and co in their story, and in other ways I think that it's not a very satisfying conclusion. But this one, if you're unfamiliar with the series, this is following Ollie, who meets her new friends Brian and Coco in the first book and ends up finding out about an entity known as the Smiling Man and gets caught up in his games at various points across about a year or 2 years. And it's about them basically outsmarting him and the power of friendship in doing that. I really like the series. I think the first book is very spooky. The second book does some interesting things and allows the other characters to kind of shine through. The third book even ups the horror even more and has a really interesting twist near the end. And then this fourth book I think is the weakest of the series. So this fourth book follows off from the end of the third book with okay, I don't know how much of this description I can give you without spoiling the end of the third book. Basically, Ollie and Coco and Brian have ended up in different places, and they have like one more chance to stop the Smiling Man, and it's basically just about that, about this like one last ditch effort to stop him. And what I liked about this is that we get to know a little bit more about the Smiling Man. We see more of him outside of just kind of his taunting and his kind of malicious persona. We get to see more of him as he is beyond that and learn a little bit more about him like as a person, which I think was interesting. I also really liked how this brought in the entire cast of characters and kind of wrapped up the story for all of them, because we have Ollie and Coco and Brian, the main characters, but also Phil and his family, and also Brian and Coco's parents and Ollie's dad. So it kind of like brings all of the characters together and has this kind of, well, you know, tied up with a bow conclusion for all of them. So I think that I liked seeing the end of their story. I also liked the horror elements in this one. This one is scary clowns, there's carnival, there's spooky clowns with like sharp teeth and claw fingers and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Very summery, which is when this one is set. And I liked the way that horror kind of played out, the little bits and pieces we got that led up to an understanding of what was going on with the spooky clowns. So I liked that part of it. On the other hand, I think that this book is like really abrupt. There's a lot of buildup, and I don't really get around to like playing the Smiling Man's kind of final game until right near the end. I would say like chapter 16 or 17 out of 19 chapters. And so it's very long buildup, and then the ending of them actually like fighting against the Smiling Man and solving his riddles and all that stuff is like 3 chapters, and it just ends very suddenly. They're not even like the longest chapters in the book, so it just ends very suddenly, and it does have a almost a little bit too neat of an ending for everything these characters have been through. I think I would have liked if there was a little bit less build-up and a little bit more of them like solving puzzles, working together, and kind of learning more about the Smiling Man, because we also like don't get that much. We get more about him than we had in previous books, but we don't get that much. We're ultimately still left like with questions about who is the Smiling Man, what is he, why is he doing the things that he's doing, what is his purpose, what is his goal. Like, we really don't get any kind of answers to that. It's just like they beat him and then they're home, and that's it. And I feel like it was a little bit underwhelming for all of the build-up across the series, and it just wasn't entirely satisfying. Also because the Smiling Man has an odd reaction at the end, and I think that from everything we've seen, it's strange for him to behave that way at the very end of the book and to not get any kind of resolution on why he behaves the way he does. So I think this is maybe the most underwhelming book in the series, but I do think it's still very spooky and was still a very fun listen. So if you want to try out the series, I still highly recommend it, and I think it's a really fun series for maybe spooky season, because since it's middle grade, the books are all very short. The audiobooks are all about like 5 hours long, and I was listening at like 2.5 times speed today because the narrator reads pretty slowly. The narrator is Renee Dorian, and I just want to say I think she does a fantastic job. I think she does a great job of making like really distinct voices for all of the characters, and the cadence of like her voice is really good for the story. It made it really easy to like follow along with what was happening. So I think that's all I really have to say on that one. I'm glad to have finally finished up that series because I've been waiting on that last book for quite a while, and now I can move on to other things. That being said, for today's to-do list, I think I'm just going to carry over the 2 things from yesterday that I didn't get done, which were reading Acts 1 to 3 of Othello and then finishing Huge Around the World, because it's like 3:30, 3:40, something like that, 3:45. And I have a lot of reading to get done, and I don't know what I'll get done beyond that. I have finally finished Acts 1 to 3 of Othello, so I have just Acts 4 and 5 left. I may read those over the weekend, but at the very least, I'm prepared for class on Monday. I'm finding this really interesting so far because I think more than any other Shakespeare play I've read before, this one is very confusing at the start. It lacks the clear, like, plot that I think a lot of the other plays I've read from Shakespeare have. Like, you tend to kind of understand what's going on within the first couple of scenes of a Shakespeare play. Like Hamlet, Ghost appears and is like, hey man, I was murdered, can you like avenge me or something? So like we have a clear direction, right? And then Romeo and Juliet, the 2 of them meet, fall in love, and it's like a whole thing because there's a feud. So it's very clear, I think, in the plays that I've read previously, what is going on. And in this one, it's really not. I feel like the first scene feels like we've missed something. Like the play almost starts after the inciting incident, and there's like stuff that's happened that we should have seen but we haven't. But as far as I can tell, basically what's happened is that there's this guy named Iago, and he is a military officer, and he really wanted this promotion to lieutenant in the battalion led by this general named Othello, who is working for the Venetian government. He's originally from Africa, but we don't have any like understanding of like why he's in Venice or why he's working with the Venetian government. He is simply a general in their army now, and he's being sent to deal with an Ottoman attack on Cyprus, which is a territory that Venice controls and wants to like keep hold of, and so he is being sent to deal with that. But at the same time, Iago really wanted this position of lieutenant in this battalion that Othello is leading, and he didn't get it because this other guy named Cassio got it. And he dislikes Cassio because he feels like Cassio got it because of his like personal connections, versus Iago feels like he should have gotten it because of his merit, because Cassio is much more like a, he's much more like a strategician, is that the word? He's more into like strategy, and I think he's kind of just gets described almost as like a math nerd, and he's not really like got practical experience in the field, which Iago is like, but I do have that, so therefore I should have gotten it over him because I'm like better at my job. So Iago is really salty he didn't get this position, and he has decided he's going to make it everybody's problem. And he just goes through the play, undermining other people's relationships, wrecking everything, doing everything he can to unsettle the status quo so that he can get Cassio removed and get a promotion for himself. That's as far as I can tell what's going on, but the first like scene just feels like you're starting in the middle of something, like you should have seen something before but you haven't. So it took me a while to kind of put the pieces together and figure out what was going on, but it's very much like Iago's personal revenge quest is what's going on. And then Othello has just recently married Desdemona, and so their relationship kind of becomes like the center of Iago's plot to unsettle everything. And I do think it's really funny that Iago is like really obviously a villain. Like he spends most of the play like monologuing to the audience and giving these like little asides of like, oh, but I am not what I seem to be. Oh, I'm gonna undermine everything. I'm gonna ruin everything just because I can. He's just constantly doing these little asides, and then meanwhile all of the other characters are like, ah, good gentle Thiago. Thinking of a completely different character entirely, I think. I'm trying to remember what that name is from. Anyway, they're like, good gentle Iago, kind and honest Iago, we love him and he loves us. Iago is great. And then he's just like in the background rubbing his little hands together like a little raccoon while he's just ruining everybody's lives. So it's really funny to me that like tension between the audience knowing exactly what Iago is up to and then like the main characters having no idea what's going on, and not somehow putting two and two together that all of their problems are coming from Iago being like, so like, I don't know, maybe you should consider if like maybe your wife is unfaithful. Don't shoot the messenger, you know? Like he is just out here saying wild shit to people and they're like, ah, good old honest Iago, and just somehow not picking up on the like bad vibes he gives off. But I think it's kind of an interesting play for that reason, because there is so much of this kind of dramatic irony that is built into it. So I'm enjoying it so far. Like I said, I've just finished Act 3, I've got 2 more acts to go, and I'm interested to see how this play is going to end, and like what the ultimate goal of Iago's behavior is. Because it seems like he's going kind of a step further than is really necessary to deal with this like lieutenant issue. It's like he not only wanted to get rid of Cassio, but he also wants to like completely undermine all the relationships in the play. So I'm just curious to see like what the ultimate goal here is and what's gonna happen with all of this, because it just feels like there's not really a plot. It's just kind of this like personal revenge drama. Well, I changed my mind and I did decide to go ahead and finish Othello. So I've just done that. It's like a little after noon on Saturday now, and I've just finished this. And this is a very weird play because ultimately there's really no plot. There's no sense given of like, why is Iago doing this other than he's mad he didn't get a promotion, and everything kind of falls apart in the last act. All the secrets are revealed, etc., etc. Because obviously the villain can't get away with things, so he has to be caught. But it's a weird one. There's just so little plot. It's kind of unclear why Iago's doing things. And then I think the thing that frustrated me the most is that like all of this could have been avoided if Othello had just like asked a question and like been willing to listen to the answer, because there's a couple of times when he talks to characters and he's like vaguely accusing them of something, but he doesn't ever really listen to their answer or give them like a direct like, here's why I think this, can you answer this, until literally like the very end of the play. He kind of gets that reveal that like if he just asked Desdemona about the handkerchief, it probably would have been okay, but he didn't do that, and so everything falls apart. So it's an interesting one. It's an odd one. I think I'd like to come back to this at some point and reread it, because I feel like a lot of it went over my head, but I'm looking forward to the class conversation on it, so that as I think that'll probably like help me kind of process what's going on in this play a little bit better. But yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm glad I've read it, and that's another book down off of my to-do list, so that's very exciting. So for today, my goals are basically to read the articles I need to read for my class on Monday. There's, I think, 3 of them. I think I'm gonna take a little break to get away from the computer for a few minutes, and then I'm gonna come back and read those 3 articles. And then I also still want to read He Who Drowned the World. Those are the goals for today. If I get them done, I might also try and play some Great Ace Attorney later with a friend, because I'm hoping to use parts of that for my second thesis. So it'd be good to go ahead and finish game 1. I'm on like the 4th case of the first of the 2 games. So, well, I was having some trouble focusing on my reading. I made a little bit of progress, but I was reading a really dense theoretical piece, decided to take a break and finish my hat. My hat is done. My hat is also slightly too small for my head, so I'm gonna go find a child that needs a beanie. It like barely reaches my ears, which, yeah, it's a little too small. So I've got cousins with children, so I'm gonna go find a child that needs a hat. So unfortunate, because I really like this yarn and I love this combination, but I should have seen this coming because I didn't, what's the word? I didn't knit a gauge swatch. I didn't swatch. You should absolutely swatch. Don't do as I do and start thinking about swatching. But also, like, I know that I tend to knit a little bit tight and I never remember to go up needle size, which I should. So yeah, anyway, hat that is too small. But at least it's done now, and I'm gonna start on something else entirely. But for now, I'm gonna go back and start working on some of that reading again so that I can make some progress there. I slept in pretty late today, but on the one hand, it's time to work on things. On the other hand, I feel better rested than I did. So I'm honestly like, okay with the fact that I slept in. Just sometimes you gotta get yourself a little extra sleep, you know? Hi, Elwood. My cat is bumping me. Let's see, it's Sunday. And I am going to not mess with a to-do list today because I already know what I need to do, which is just finish the readings for tomorrow and finish He Who Drowned the World. That's it. Then I'm just gonna do those 2 things, and then I'm going to try and, or like, I'll make a decision of what I want to do later once those things are done. Those are my 2 goals for today, and I'm not too terribly worried about getting them done. At the very least, I know I'm gonna get the readings for tomorrow done because I have to, but I'm like halfway through one of them, so I don't have like a ton left of those, so I think it shouldn't be too bad. For He Who Drowned the World, I've got about 30% left. I don't know why that was so hard to say. It was about 150 pages, so that's it. That's what I'm gonna work on today. I'm gonna hang out with my cats. I'm pointing, you can't see him. Let me, there he is. I'm gonna hang out with my cats and work on those couple of things. And first I need to get some coffee and some food. I just got up, so my voice is still a little raspy sounding to my own ears. And I think that's it. I think that's the update. I just finished He Who Drowned the World, and like, sorry if the quality, I'm filming this on my phone because my camera's over there and I have a little kitty buddy. Oh shit. This has so many twists, like so many things go in different directions than I thought they would. But it's so fucking good. The endings for all of the characters are great. I mean, like, and terrible, because so many terrible things happen in this. But, like, I think the message at the end is really interesting. It's this, like, throughout the entire series, or entire, like, 2 books, Ja has been, like, wanting to change the world, not just like rule it, but like change it, because she was never allowed a place in it as herself, and she's met all these people who've been denied places because they don't fit into the world's like rigid existing hierarchies, and she just wanted to like get to the top so that she could make a world where that was different than that, and that she was like carving her own place and hoping that others could like see for themselves that that was possible. And so, like, the way this ends, it goes in, like, a totally different direction than I thought it was going to, but it is so good, and it really reflects that, like, message throughout this of, like, carving your place in the world, but also this idea that you can't change a system from within it. It doesn't matter the intentions of the person who is, like, leading a broken system. It is always going to be broken, and it requires, like, a breaking of the old system to create something new and more positive. And I think that's just reflected so well in this. And I cried like 5 different times in the last, like, 30% of the book, because there's, like, bits that are really sad, bits that are really touching and heartwarming and heartbreaking, and bits that are just, like, I think give me almost, like, a little bit of hope for humanity, and, like, this focus on the uniqueness of individuals and of, like, the strength of kindness in a dark place. It's all so fucking good. Yeah. I'm gonna have to sit with this one for a while before I can, like, do a coherent review, but this book broke me in, like, a really good way, and I think this is the perfect follow-up to She Who Became the Sun. Like, I don't have any qualms with this. It does, or, like, I always use the word qualms, and I never think that's the right word. I don't have any issues with it at all. Like, it leaves things unanswered, but in a way that feels like the world continues on. Even if this story has ended, the story is over, but there is, like, a future to it, a sense of, like, continuation that I think is really interesting. And so, like, there's things that are unanswered, but I'm actually fine with those things being unanswered because they're not a part of this story. I don't know. I really fucking loved it. I really fucking loved it. I was having a bit of emotional whiplash because this little cat was just, I was, like, reading the last little bit and just, like, crying because it's so sad. And then this little guy was coming up and just getting closer and closer to get, like, snuggles, because he's not, normally he likes to sit like he is now, like, sitting down my lap, but he was, like, coming up to just really snuggle to me. I think he, like, could tell I was sad, and he's such a sweet little guy. It was emotional whiplash. Anyway, I have finally finished He Who Drowned the World. I've been reading it for what feels like ages, but in fact was far less time than I read the first book in. And I don't think I'm the same person as I was when I started this book. So now I'm gonna go think about this book and process. And I think I'm gonna go do that while playing some Divinity. But with that being said, I think this vlog is going to end here in this, like, impromptu phone clip because my camera's all the way over there. I think I just need to go, like, stare at a ceiling for a little bit after that. But yeah, I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting every Tuesday and Saturday, so there is more content coming soon, and hope to see you in the next video.